providing the chances. And isn't it just perfect that Harry's back in form?
Mm-hmm.
The goals are going in for him now. He's got 5 on the season, so that's a respectable total after 11 games. And I'd love to see him repeat his antics from last March when we did him at the Lane. But we know it's a tough proposition. Look at the form guide right now. Arsenal are top, 1 defeat. And since that defeat to Chelsea, which you could argue they were unlucky with the sending off of the young lad, and they've won 5 since, including a mauling of United, 2 impressive 3-0 away wins, and a 5-2 win at Leicester, handing them their only defeat of the season.
Mm-hmm.
You know, their closest game was 2-1 at home to Everton a couple of weeks ago. So they are certainly not a team that are in any kind of trouble. But, however, we are the second informed team with 4 wins and 2 draws. And obviously we haven't been beaten, as you mentioned earlier, since the beginning of the season. But I get a bit nervous about this. As much as we're doing great right now, you know what our record's like at the empty crates. You know, if we can get a draw, as we did last season, and, you know, that game we took the lead and we just weathered an absolute barrage from those wankers until we succumbed, and then we had to kind of hang on for the 1-1 draw. And I think Hugo played a huge role in maintaining that point. So, you know, if you're asking me, how do you think we do? Obviously, I want us to win. And I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to lose, regardless of what my head is really thinking. So I've got to plump for the draw.
Yeah, and
tough ask.
When you look at the matchup, I think attacking wise, if we can hit the targets, we'll have our chances, and we should be able to convert at least 1, if not 2. I think the real battle, especially when you're playing this match away, is going to be how Dyer and Ali, Alderweireld and Vertonghen match up with the attacking midfield and the French meaty forehead of that wank. I can't remember his name right now.
Yeah, it's not even worth mentioning his name.
No. You know, so it's how you take on Cazorla and whoever else they're going to have. You know, Bellerin and Coquelin. Listen, they're kind of the same type of players as we get with Ali and Dyer. So I think that physical battle in the midfield is going to be really fun to watch. As a Spurs fan, I fully expect Dyer to be kicking the crap out of those guys. I really do. And you hope that the creativity that Ali has will be able to shine through. Dembele tracks back well. We've already talked about Lamella's defensive prowess. How do you not get caught on the break, and then how do you catch them on the break? I have a feeling that this is not going to be one of those 15-round heavyweight bouts where they feel each other out for 12 rounds, and then you pour it on with 20 minutes to go and see if anybody can grab something. I think this is going to be a lot like what we saw, if anybody watched it, what was it, the Everton-Sunderland match, where it was back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, counterattack after counterattack after counterattack. I'm kind of hoping it's like that. I think that actually would bode well for us. With
us winning 6-2, of course.
Yeah, I'll take that. 9-1, do a Wigan repeat. But listen, you like the draw. I'm saying I'm going to go with a repeat of last year at the Lane and go 2-1. I really think we can take this. I think the lads are really going to be up for it. And with the injuries that they have, I think it's nominally more important for them to try to get those players back than it is for the injuries that we have. Yes, we'll miss Chadley. Will Son be fully fit? No. Will he come on for 20 minutes? Perhaps. But they're missing Walcott. They're missing Oxlade-Chamberlain, who's arguably one of their most powerful players and creative player that they have. Bellerin does okay. Cazorla, listen, the guy's world class. I don't like him, but he's their Christian Eriksen. It's going to be one hell of a match. Olivier Giroud, that's the little twat I was thinking of earlier. I don't see him having any success whatsoever against Vertonghen and Alderweireld. I don't.
Well, the permutations in a critical fixture such as the North London Derby are immense. There's many, many different outcomes. I think there's a few keys, and I think mental toughness. I think our success really, well, the success for anybody, either them or us for that matter, is centered around mental toughness. And I think I don't have a worry in the world. Crazy as it may sound about a 19 and a 21-year-old, about Dyer and Ali. I just don't worry about them at all. The player that I think, ironically, that we asked is he influential, that will need to be influential in this game is Lamela. And the player that they have, I'd argue their Christian Eriksen is Ozil, and that's the player that we need to shut down. So without Oxlade-Chamberlain, and I'm not too arsed about them not having Walcott, Ozil's been very, very good. He's never showed up in this fixture, and I'm not a big fan of him being sort of a mentally tough player. So shut him down. Lamela has an extraordinary game, the kind of game that we've been begging for him in a big game. But I'm like Simon, begging for a draw, want to get out of there. Almost, it's almost one of those things where, God forbid, if we do win, the level of expectation is so high that we beat arguably the best team in the league there. So I don't know. Like, I'm praying for a draw, praying for a good showing, but I'm not.
We get a point there, and then we turn over the pikeys and the chavs at our place.
Thrilled for that outcome.
Absolutely
Thrilled for that outcome. They've got another tough fixture this weekend. I think they have Everton at home. Anyway, yeah. So it's gonna be an interesting game, and all logic tends to get thrown out of the window sometimes in those bitter rivalries like that. But I think these young kids are up for it. Yeah. I think. That's the nice thing about having homegrown talent. You roll into those matches,
exactly.
The Chelseas and the North London derbies, with kids with a point to prove. Maybe they do this weekend. I hope they do.
We'll see. It's going to be really fun to watch. Listen, if
you say that now, I hope it is.
It always
could be.
When we go to the, I know in Dallas anyway, there's always that half a dozen to a dozen Arsenal fans that'll show up and try to keep up with the 80 or so Dallas Spurs that'll show up. I hope the other pubs around the country and around the world, for that matter, are like that, to where, you have your own home pub or whatever, but if you live in a city that's big enough, maybe you can't get all the way over there, which obviously these guys can't. They must live very close to where that is, because they're always in there. It's not just for the North London Derby. And there's been a lot of chippy banter that's gone back and forth, even with matches that don't pertain to either one of us as competitors. Just watching the other team hoping they lose while their matches on.
Oh, when we watched the Leicester match, we all cheered when Leicester scored first.
Yeah, they became unruly after that. I hope everyone, and that's what I mean by the matches are fun to watch. This is the one where if you can get to the pub, get to the pub. There's nothing like being surrounded by all your other fellow supporters and having the time of your lives for 2 hours. And
I normally don't make the Sunday matches.
Good fortune.
Clear the decks and I'll make it.
Good fortune willing. 2-1. I'm standing by that. I think our defensive midfield and our center backs are going to control that midfield enough to let the creative side of what we can do on the counterattack, which we saw today twice for 2 of the 3 goals. I think that happens.
Give me a 1-0. Give me a 1-0. I'll even take a 1-1. Mm-hmm. Hey, I know that we had plans to kind of do a quarter of the season review. We're butting up against an hour. You want to table that to maybe do that after the Arsenal match so that we maybe a little bit more level-headed as to how we go about doing our ratings? Because I kind of feel like if we're going to do that, we'll probably take some time to do that. And we're right at about an hour. Thoughts?
We could do it quickly. Go on.
Yeah, let's do it real quick. I mean, it's really just...
We're going to be winging it anyway.
Yeah, it's 5 quick subject matters.
Go on.
Quarter poll review. The manager and his staff. Grade system, let's say A, B, C, D, F. Simon.
B
okay.
minus. B minus. I think that there are still some tactical things going on that make me scratch my head, and I can't remember the game when I think it was it Swansea when we were 2-2 and they took Harry off and we kind of lost the fight. There was a match that was like that, and I was just like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
And I think because right after that was the international break or something, and it didn't make any sense whatsoever. But I think he's definitely got that consistency where last season it was all over the shop. statistic came up on the amount of goals we've conceded at this point last season versus this season, which is a lot better. I would have liked us to still stay at the 8 that United and Arsenal are at, but 9 goals conceded versus 14 at the same point last year, and it only got worse. Is definitely a step in the right direction. So I think he's addressed. Whereas before he said, I'm not really worried about the defence, but he couldn't ignore the elephant in the room, and that was our defence was woeful. And I think Jan loves playing with Toby, and so he's fixed that. And, we did scratch ahead on the Dyer experiment. It's working out, and long may it continue. So I'll give him a B-. And if we want to do this again around New Year's, we'll see if that changes.
All right, Sam? Yeah.
I shade him up to a B. And, why not higher style of play? I still think that's out there. But I think I think we are a better club this way through the season this year versus now. I think everything about what we do is better. And I think that we have a system now where multiple responsibilities are given to players. And I think they're doing a reasonably good job of it. And for all of look, there's nobody on this podcast that was bitching and moaning more about a CDM. I mean, my God, I was like a broken record. And the simple irony was, didn't need anybody because we had Pochettino.
Yeah, and I'm gonna echo your sentiments there, Sam. I'm gonna give him a B as well. And listen, I think the tactical side of things with his coaches, I understand what Simon's saying. When you have the youngest team in the league, you have to ask a lot of them. And the competition, I think, that it has developed within the squad is extremely healthy, and he's taking full advantage of that. When Pochettino set out to do whatever it is that he was going to do, I'm thinking that what we are seeing as supporters on the pitch is very close to what he envisioned. There's still things that you can see him, griping at players. He'll pull a player off every once in a while and sub him out and kind of give him that look like, you're not doing exactly what I want you to do. But I think for the most part, he's getting out of the youngest squad in the league exactly what he needs to get out of them to have them top 5. And as going off air today, the NBC pundits, who are football people, this is not ESPN FC, which is the worst show on television. These guys were saying they're top 4, if not top 3. They have that capability, and it's because of the manager. It really is, because there's not a whole lot of other managers that I can think of off the top of my head that would come to Spurs that would get this out of that squad. I really just don't see it. From a player's perspective, I'm going to give the squad as a whole a B-. There are still things that, to quote a Timmyism, you get a lot of capitulation. I liken back to the Leicester match where we score and then instantly concede and end up with a draw where we should have probably had a win. Although Leicester played very well that day. The Stoke match really sticks out.
Well, and it almost happened again in the Villa game. They got the goal, and then the screws were turned, and we were all getting a bit nervous there. And we gradually got the ball back, maintained the composure, and pushed the play into the corners, and the threat was nullified even before, obviously Harry sealed the points, but it was getting a little squeaky bum time there for a minute.
Yeah, and you look at the players.
And that, I think, will define his leadership in those situations. Going back to what I said about Villa, having the mental toughness, we have got to have that mental toughness that when we let in a goal and we're only up by 1 and there's 15 minutes to play, what do we do to hang on? Because we didn't do that with Stoke.
Yeah, it's an outstanding point.
But I've heard, I want to say it was maybe Windy over at Fighting Cock had said the greatest signing that we made this entire off season was a signing that we did not make. It saved us the most money by putting Eric Dyer in that position that he plays now in the central defensive midfield role, where we didn't have to go and spend dozens of millions of dollars on a Schneiderlin or a Witzel or somebody like that was rumored to come in, Wanyama. We didn't have to go and spend all that money. This $4.5 million or £4.5 million player rather has stepped up and is arguably one of the best central defensive midfielders now in the league.
He saved us $20 million.
Easily.
He saved us $20 million. Point blank. Period. The end. I mean, at least that. And And you know, and if you think about it, remember when he was played there, it was like, oh well, Pochettino's sending a message to Levy. Yeah, he's sending a message to Levy. I can